Greetings and welcome to Mentor Mike's Market Movie for Friday, January 31st, 2014. The time is about 2:15 p.m. Pacific Time currently. Let's get started. Now, if you've watched any of these market movies lately, you know I'm planning to reopen my trading room a little bit later in the summer, but that's still contingent on there being sufficient interest. So if you haven't already taken my no obligation survey and you think that if I reopen the trading room you'd like to participate, please let me know by sending me an email to mentormike@sbcglobal.net. Okay, now let's take a look at today's trading. Didn't have much time once again. I took these two trades in the Euro USD on my dedicated live computer and made 215 pips. Not a bad early morning from about 4 to 6. But that's all I had time for. So we're going to replay the S&P right now. And I'm going to essentially be looking at this for the first time. Now, we've got the data stopped at about 5 o'clock, it appears. That's 5 o'clock Pacific time. So let's get rolling and see what's what. Now I need to adjust some levels here and bring out my little control panel, and we'll start off by cranking up the data. Okay, I'm going to pause it right here. For one thing, we've got a pretty substantial down move here. The one thing I've changed here since yesterday, I've added back the trend defining moving average. I was trying to kind of get away from it for the sake of less clutter on the chart, but I'm finding that it is helpful to me. So I put it back, and as you can see, we're definitely in a downtrend here. It was right about at the cutoff period yesterday that this thing peaked and started heading lower. So we're in a situation right now where we've just now recreated a new red, white, and blue bearish alignment here, heading south. Don't quite have the crossover on the faster MACD, but we sure have it on the slower one. And we've got rising volume, relatively speaking. And if we compress a little bit, you can see it's rising pretty hard. So that suggests that this thing is going to sell off some more. We got an S1 level there that could get in the way and act as some support, but we'll see how that goes. We'll start our arrow here, and we'll take the short trade. I'm playing by my contest rules, and again, I don't want to reiterate these every single time we do one of these. If you've seen any of the earlier market movies from Tuesday or Wednesday, you know what those contest rules are about. So we've got an ATR above 2 points, so that means our initial target's going to be 8 ticks, a little more challenging than the 3 ticks we usually work with. But let's see what happens. And away we go. First target filled. Auto stop starts to move. We're going to hit the second target or get stopped out. And we got awful close to that second target, then it backed away and stopped us out. So we got 287.50 on the score for the first of our trades. Now, before we go any further, one of the things we want to know is how far down is this thing going to go and when is it likely to bottom out? Well, there's a handy little tool that will help us with that. For one thing, we could set up a Fibonacci grid and see where the support zones happen to be. Let's do that real quick. So Right now, we're at the 161.8 level and a little bit past the S1 pivot point. So we can pretty well shut off these other levels because they're just cluttering up the chart and they're not going to be relevant to this particular trade. So let's see, everything above the 127 we'll get rid of here. That's a little better. Now let's also run a regression channel down from this high to this low. This is another great tool because in general, when you've got a price move, it tends to stay within the confines of a linear regression channel. The way these things work is the center line is kind of a self-adjusting trend line or a self-adjusting moving average, however you want to think of it. And then the two channel lines are a certain number of standard deviations outside of that. So you can see that this low and this high are spanning the channel and so forth. So right now we're outside the channel, which kind of suggests that we're not at the bottom yet, but we're starting to get a little bit of divergence here on our MACD. So let's turn the data back on and see what happens. Okay, we're breaking south, so we have another red, white, and blue alignment, and that's kind of suggestive that this thing is still going to go lower. So let's get short once again. Now we're stalling at the 161.8. And I am going to stop this here because we got something of an attrition fill and didn't move our stop. So I'm going to put the stop down manually to where it needs to be, which is right there. And we'll see what happens first, whether we head south or hit the stop. Okay, now we're still outside that channel, or pretty close, so let's see. Nope. So we got 387.50. And take a look at this. We got a cross on the MACD. And we've got some divergence as well, and we're starting to get a little bit of a hook of the volume. Let's see what's going to happen here. Okay, the red has dropped down, and we have a red, white, and blue alignment on strongly rising volume. Not too noticeable over here, but definitely over here. Let's take a shot on the long side. That's what we like to see. And stopped out. So we're not getting to that second target. We've had 3 one-target trades, but that first target is out there some distance, so we're still doing pretty good. All right, let's stall it out here. We're almost ready to bust out of this regression channel. I think we need to reload on the long side here. fact, let's get this out of the way for now. And probably take this off as well. And maybe we can stretch this a little bit, get a better view of things. So as you can see, we pushed the upper Donchian channel up higher, which is a pretty good indication that we've bottomed out here. At the very least, we're going to have a more protracted correction. So let's get long. There we go. Looked a little dicey when that thing was coming down, but the white MA had a nice curve up by that point. We gonna make it to that second target ever? Not this time either. But we're up to 725 now. Okay. Well, we're back above the trend definer. We still got the red, white, and blue alignment. Maybe we'll run the data just a little bit more, see if we can get a little more curvature on the blue MA. We've got a nice bullish hook on the long-term MACD, I notice. There we go. You see it hook up there just a little bit? That's a good sign that maybe it wants to keep going. Or it could be a complete fake out. One of the two. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. I think that timing was pretty good. As soon as that blue started to hook up, away it went. And both targets this time. We're up to 1187.50. Remember, boys and girls, we're using just 3 contracts on each of these trades with 2 targets. And the score is net of a $9 per contract transaction cost. Now, $9 per contract is a lot more than I normally spend, but that's what it's going to cost to participate in this particular contest. Now, we have pushed this guy higher, and we have a full-on cross now on the long-term MACD, which suggests that this thing wants to keep going. Why not? We've got a little cushion now. We can afford to be aggressive. There we go again. Gonna hit that second one. Not looking too good. Stopped out. One target, but hey, added a little bit to the score. Okay, we broke this little pullback trend line here, and this thing's starting to go higher. But notice we got no volume on the faster oscillator here. We got the R1 right there. R2 is along further. Let's see where we would be in terms of our Fibonacci. So we go from this high down to this low, and we're about to the 61.8. I think we get rid of everything below that. And let's see where we are in terms of the regression channel. All right, we're about to break out of the regression channel. Kind of suggests to me that it still wants to go higher. Oh, we've got a pretty good cushion. We can withstand something. Let's get in there. One of the drawbacks to just two targets is that you're faced with the prospect of re-entering quite a bit of the time. Oh, well, it's a moot point now. We've got a winning trade. When you get to three targets, it gets better because then you can you don't have to jump into harm's way quite as frequently. Another one target, but hey, we edge our way up just a little bit each time. And let's pull our regression channel up higher. We're seemingly stalling out here at the 61.8. Okay, notice it took this little resistance area out. That's a pretty good sign that it wants to go higher. We still have dropping volume here, but we still have a little bit of bullishness over on this side. And look at the longer term chart here. The way this thing is climbing, it sure looks like it's going to flip this parabolic, which means they've got to intersect somewhere out here, which strongly suggests to me that there's at least enough upward momentum left to hit the first target. So let's go again. Also, notice that our trend definer has flattened and is starting to rise just a tad. That's another reason I wanted to put that guy back on there. Well, this is not looking so good. Okay. Well, this is a bit of a dilemma. We have a very strong positive MACD, and we're we're starting to lose it here. We have a rising trend definer, which kind of suggests that this is some type of pullback. And now, here's one thing we can do to kind of test this theory. Let's bring this up here. Now, if we drag this further this way, we can see that this move is still kind of fitting within the channel, which kind of suggests that this is a pullback that is going to turn around and go higher. Just because we flipped the parabolic, it's not a guarantee that it's coming south. And especially with this rising trend definer. So let's put that there. And not all mistakes are of the same caliber. Sometimes the mistake is that you get in too soon and that the counter move is not quite over yet. This could be that kind of mistake. We've got a little bit to play with still. I think we had about 1,300 and we're only down about 6 right now. So let's hang on and see if we can pull this victory from the jaws of defeat. Well, now right here we definitely have a drooping white MA, and we're kind of sitting on the, or almost to the lower Donchian. But if this thing's really going to go lower, we're going to have to at least see that thing come down. But over here, we're sitting on the long-term trend definer. And this sucker's coming down. I'm going to ease it forward just a tad bit more. Oh, pushed it down. But if we carry this out, it's hard to say. I got kind of burned on something like this the other day, as I recall. Maybe it was on the euro, but I'm going to edge it forward a little bit more. That white MA is just about flat. Just running right along the R1 level. The further it goes sideways, the more likely it is that it's still going to be within the channel. You have to appreciate that breaking out of the channel is not an absolute guarantee, especially when we've got a real kind of an Elliott wave thing going here. We've got a 1, 2, 3, 4 possibly, and we've already got some little zigzags here. So is there going to be a 5 a little bit higher? Maybe. Ooh. Notice the volume's picking up now. And there's a flip of the parabolic. We're going to get a red, white, and blue on this side. Yes, we are. And there it is. And there's finally our first target and the stop moving. And this is now over here. You know, in a way, oh, we got stopped out. What's our score now? 1837. Okay, hang on. Let me pause that. I got to tell you, the fact that I was in that long trade made me hang on in a way that I might not have otherwise. If I had been flat the market and I saw this right here, breaking out of that regression channel when this was still the high, I would have shorted this thing. And remember, we got an 8-tick initial target, so maybe if I'd shorted it way up here, that would have been enough to hit the target. But this would have been a loser for sure, and I would have had to bail out at about this point in reverse. But the fact that I was already long, and my perhaps biggest shortcoming personally as a trader is that I hate to lose. So I will hang on for a little bit longer than most people will when I think that the mistake is of the, started too early type. And that's what this turned out to be. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This time it did. All right, let's see what's going to happen now. We've got this at the high, and we've made it up to the 78.6 level on our retracement grid. And we now have what appears to be perhaps a finished Elliott wave pattern. Kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see what happens now. Going to go higher still. Not this time. Now it's pushing higher here. One thing that's stopping me this time around, that a condition we didn't have before, is divergence on this MACD. Before, when this was the highest high, we couldn't tell what was going on. But now we've made a higher high on the price, but this has not followed suit. We've got divergence, if you'll notice. We're still clinging to that 78.6 layer too, so that makes a difference. Let's see. Okay, there's red. Let's see if we get red, white, and blue. We've almost got a cross on the MACD. Now it's about 12:01 on the replay clock, so we're still able to take trades. Kind of like it when it consolidates there. It doesn't move too much lower. Okay, right there. All right, notice the white was running kind of parallel to the channel line, but it's now starting to wilt to the right and separate from the channel line. That's a good sign. We've got red, white, blue, prices dropping, and it's just gone below the 61.8. We've got a full-on cross here. We've got rising volume on both sides. Even a tiny hook on the MACD. And this is not too impressive from a bearish standpoint, but given the fact that this thing has zigzagged around the trend definer, there's a good chance that this thing could stab below the trend definer one more time. So I think the time is finally right to take a short here. And let's get this out of the way. And I think we can get this out of the way now. Okay. Once we hit that first target, we're out of the woods. Provided the stop moves also. And we hit the second target, and it's about 12:58. We'll just run this out. That was obviously the last trade of the day, and our score is $2,300. And let's not forget, folks, we only traded 3 contracts with 2 targets and made $2,300. Imagine if we grow the account up to 9 contracts and we can move to 3 targets, we'd have had a much handsomer score. But also, remember, the contest rules are not only a $9 per contract transaction cost, but also we got to make $3,000 before we can add another contract. Whereas real money trading is only $1,000, but here it's 3. So how many trades do we have? 2, 4, 6, 8 today, and 2,300. Now, want to have some fun like that? Come and join me in the trading room when we reopen this summer. But if we don't have enough people, it's not going to be worth it. So if you think you might want to, let me know and tell your friends. You got friends that like to day trade? Have them watch these movies and see if they're interested as well. Anyway, this is it for this week. We'll see you next week. And, oh, by the way, on the 5th of February, I have another webinar. So I'll be posting the registration link in tonight's market movie. Be sure and check it out. Thanks a lot. See you next week.